The project we're focusing on this week is the Aranyi Landscape drawings. She is an artist, illustrator, and graphic designer. She graduated in 2013 from Virginia Commonwealth University, and she currently works full-time as a graphic designer in DC, but on the side she sells her paintings and artwork like these ones that you're seeing now. You'll notice there's a lot of contrast in her art, so the bottom half of the drawing is usually black and white, and then the sky is really colorful. What we're going to be doing is drawing a landscape kind of like this with the very simple black and white on the bottom, and then adding analogous colors in our sky. When we look at the bottom, where the mountains, the trees, and everything are, you see very fine line work and adding shadow with just simple lines and hatch lines. Hatch lines are whenever you create shading, but the lines never touch. So in her mountain, she has those diagonal lines to create the shading on one side and to add texture. I mentioned analogous colors. So when we go to paint our sky, we're going to use analogous colors, which are next to each other on the color wheel. Maybe down by your mountains, you start with yellow, and then you want to go to green, blue, violet, kind of fade out from there. Or the opposite, you could go yellow, orange, red, whatever it is. Just make sure they're next to each other so that way they blend really well into each other. For your project, it is up to you. If you want it to just be on the square paper, if you kind of want to make a circle and have the drawing in the middle, if you want to make it into a triangle and go from there. I'm going to make mine into a circle. If you do not have a circle maker, wherever you are, you can always get a large plate or a large bowl and flip it over. So once you have your circle, your triangle, or if you're just using the square of the paper, that's great. We're going to start with a horizon line before our mountains. So in the bottom third of our paper, I'm going to make kind of a line just going across. Then for your mountains, think of it like a heartbeat. You can make them as zigzagged as you want. For down here, I'm going to have a little river to give some perspective and some depth. So just like your 1-point perspective drawings, this could even be a road if you don't want it to be a river. So I kind of follow that line, but then I bring it wider at the bottom. If I'm going to put some trees, a few places, we'll do that later actually. So for my mountains themselves, at the very top, I'm going to kind of come down as far as I want to break that peak in half, and then I go back to the left. So everywhere where I see a peak, I make sort of this diagonal letter V. So we start at the peak and then we end in the valley. So here's our peak, and then it would go to the valley. See how I'm keeping it a little jagged, because not all of it's going to be the same. Start at the peak, be as far down as you want. Now, kind of like how hers were, she added more details on the mountains themselves. So I'm going to have kind of make these structures on my mountain wherever you think that looks a little too plain. And then once I have those, we can start to add our hatch lines. So to make those hatch lines, I grabbed a skinny marker, or you could use a pen, black pen. Like I said, hatch lines are lines that don't touch, but they're close enough together that they're giving the illusion of shading. I'd probably go in and trace over all my pencil lines as well. Just make diagonal lines in these kind of triangle shapes that we made to create shading without really creating shading. And as I continue to do this, you can work on yours. Now I have that part of the mountains down. I feel like they still look a little plain, so you can go ahead in and add some lines, like some texture lines, so they don't look completely smooth. I'm then going to work on tracing the bottom half of my paper, where if you want that to be a river, if you want it to be a path, your choice. Then we're going to add some trees to create more depth. I'm going to have mine be a path. So after I trace that horizon line, my path coming down, I want to show the thickness of it. So I might see some over here, might see some of the path over here. I can add texture in there. It's probably not solid or paved. If you have water, you probably just do more wavy lines. Maybe put some rocks around it, which I'll probably do in a second. Rocks. Then for your trees. Yeah, those rocks aren't the best. We're going to have a tree in our background or our middle ground and our foreground. So if it's in our background, it's going to be a little bit farther away. I'm just going to space them out for now. I have one in my middle ground. It's a little closer. And then one in my foreground. I might put another one in my background over here. I'm going to make mine into pine trees. You can make yours into whatever you want. So on one side, I kind of curve it out at a diagonal, and then the other side, especially the further away they are, you're not going to see that detail as much. But remember, as you get towards the bottom, you probably want these lines to get a little longer. And then as we're closer, I'm going to start with it all the same height just to show you, because I had some people last year who kind of just did their trees like this. But that doesn't really look necessarily right. So I start to bring those lines out a little bit further to give it more of a triangle shape. Same on the other side. We can also go in and add more of a tree trunk. Now, if you notice in the one painting, there was a little tent here. You can add a tent. You can add whatever else you want on the bottom to make it feel a little more full. But now that we have our black and white on the bottom, we're going to start with the sky. Remember, you can use analogous colors, so colors are next to each other. If I start with yellow, maybe I'll go to green, then blue, then violet. Or yellow, orange, red. Maybe I start with red and can go violet, blue, green. I'm going to get my paint real quick while you also get yours, and then we'll meet back. Okay, I have my watercolor. Remember, water is always on the brush first. I'm going to start with yellow. So all I'm doing is outlining first the mountains, being careful not to put any paint on that white part. And I'm bringing the yellow up a little bit, because the reason we use Analogous is since they are next to each other, these colors are going to blend really well together. If you have a paint palette like mine that has a few different colors in it, like different shades of green, that's great. If not, not a big deal. You either add more or less water to your brush, depending on how light or dark you want that, how vibrant or how dull you want it. So I have my yellow. I'm going to add some yellow like coming up into the sky. Okay. If I'm going around, I'm going to choose to go to green next. I can get some green mixed in there with my yellow. Making sure we use the same green. If not, that could be bad. So it starts to look kind of like the Aurora Borealis, or even if you were going yellow to orange to red to violet, might look like a sunset. After green, I could go darker green, or I could just go straight to blue. Making sure to overlap, because then you'll see those colors really start to blend. I might go in and add, let's try to add a darker green first, because I feel like that's pretty harsh. So I'm just experimenting now with which greens, which blues. And once it dries, it may look a little different. Now I have this deeper, like blue-violet in my palette. I'm probably going to experiment with next. Oops. I'll use some white out later to clear that off. That's what happens when you rush. I think my yellow could be brighter. So I'm going to go back over with my yellow and just experiment with how you want your colors to look, how you want them to overlap and kind of shine. And I think I need to blend up here a little bit better. Probably should paint it upside down so it wasn't dripping. All right, and when it's finished, let it dry. I'll probably cut mine out and glue it down to a black piece of paper or another type of paper. I can't wait to see your finished work, and I'll see you on Artsonia. Have a great day.